I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is All the Mods 10. Now, the last few episodes have been really focused on bees and getting resource generation started. Well, today that all changes because we're going to be putting those resources to use and diving deeper into some tech mods. That's right, today we're going to be playing around with AdvancedAE, Mekanism, and also more extended AE, hopefully increasing our productivity. And now that spokesperson Chosen is done, I can pop back down into my sewer system and take my lousy computer off my head. Man, just feels good to unwind, you know? And unwind we shall, diving deeper into more applied energistics. But I promise you, this is actually going to be really interesting, and I'm going to be discovering some new techniques, basically, because AdvancedAE is going to allow us to automate Mekanism infusers way better than ever before. And how, you might ask? Well, let's go ahead and discover this together. So we need to make advanced pattern providers. These are going to be something rather new that we are going to be discovering. And then we also need an advanced pattern encoder. This is kind of a one-time thing that we need, really, but might as well toss it in. And when we toss it in, you're going to notice that my patterns here, are a little full. Like, we're looking mighty full here. So I think this is also time to extend our pattern providers. And thankfully, I already have the recipe set up and everything ready to go for upgrading the pattern providers. This is going to be the pattern provider upgraders that are from AdvancedAE. And I am going to need quite a few of them. For example, we have 8 per section and we have 4 sections. So 8 times 4, and voila, it will produce all of them that we need. And we can go ahead and start extending our pattern providers. So these are just a row of 9, but we can make this much larger by shift right clicking, and voila, this now is extended by 4 times. What a huge upgrade. Now, I do want to upgrade the molecular assemblers on here, but these work a little bit differently. Essentially, we are going to need molecular assemblers in order to change these out. And sadly, there's not like a direct conversion for it. So for now, which I'll probably end up using those assemblers in the future, I'm just going to go ahead and craft a new set. And then for the fun part, breaking them all down and replacing them. Now for the fun part, explaining how the extended molecular assemblers are going to work with co-processing units on your CPUs. This is a little bit more complicated, but I think the way to simplify this is the more co-processors you have now, the faster this is going to work. That is pretty cut and dry. But if you really want to know the complexities of this, essentially you need to be able to support 7. You need basically 7 co-processing units for each connected extended molecular assembler that could touch the face of this pattern provider. So yeah, we would essentially need 7 times 4 in this case, but if you had 2 more sides, you would need 7 times 6. The reason I say 7 is because the pattern providers themselves can already send to 1 molecular assembler, and these can do 8 crafting jobs at one time. And so in reality, this setup right here is kind of like having 8 molecular assemblers attached to 1 face. At the moment, we just have regular co-processing units, but Megacells does offer more compact versions of the co-processing unit, which we'll get into a little bit later. But for right now, I've just extended this to basically be 7 tall, and that will get it done for right now. It's not anything crazy, but it will speed up our crafting, because to really get the full use out of this, I would need like 28 co-processing units per stack here, like per CPU. Actually, it might be more like 31 co-processors now that I think about it. Still, that's a big number, that's a big setup, and honestly not necessary just yet. We'll be diving into some better stuff in the future. Speaking of better stuff, AdvancedAE is actually what we're going to be taking a peek at, but we're just going to be using that more or less as a tool to automate Mekanism. So I'm thinking this area back here would be a nice place to kind of have some of our Mekanism automations taking place. And some mods are going to fit better into rooms like this. I'm not going to be able to utilize this room for everything, but for sort of these odd and end like automations, these little rooms that I designed are going to be perfect for that. And this, for example, is no exception. So hear me out. I have automated the Mekanism alloys a million different ways, it seems like at this point. I have done it passively, where you just have a constant supply of stuff being kept in stock. I have done it with request crafting with basic pattern providers. I have just done it where something sends to a drawer and then it just automatically gets filtered back and then sent back to a pattern provider. I've done it a million different ways, but now there's a new way to do it. And this way, honestly, might be the best way and the cleanest way that you could ever set it up. And I mean, the entire idea around this advanced pattern provider, while it can work with other things, I mean, it looks like it was specifically designed for Mekanism and handling like the infusion crafting. Okay, now before I even jump deeper into that, which I'm super excited to get into, I do want to make a color applicator and kind of show you how this even gets used. And I want to use this to color our ME wireless connectors. And this is going to prevent them from interacting with cables, for example, and interacting with each other whenever we start to place more of them in. And so the things that I'm going to need, for example, are matter balls, and we can dye these matter balls different colors. For example, I want purple, right? And I'm also going to want green. And we can insert the matter balls into this by using an ME drive. I recommend using a drive like this, setting the priority really, really high, right? And then place this in as if it's a disk. And whenever we put the paintballs in here, it's going to go into the color applicator, which the only things it can't accept are the matter balls. So by simply putting in our different colors, the green here and that, it should be pretty good. Now it does look like purple dye for some reason ended up going in here. I don't think dye is supposed to be able to go in here, and I don't think anything is really supposed to be able to go into this. But once we have those balls in there, we can go ahead and hold down Shift and scroll wheel to change the colors between the matter balls that we have. So for example, green and purple. And yeah, I now can change the color of cables on demand, which is really good. But I can also use it, for example, to prevent these from connecting, because by connecting here, notice this is actually connected, this green cable. I don't want that to happen. So I will color this purple by shift right clicking, and this is now dyed purple, and notice that's no longer connected. And this will also prevent other wireless connectors from connecting to other wireless connectors if they're stacked next to each other. And so when I place this up here and I connect these two together, they should, I don't know if it's going to carry the color channel over, but we'll find out. Right there, I don't think it is carrying the color, but it is still connected. But I can always change the color just like that. And now they are both basically connected to each other like so, and you can see all of the stuff connected. I really hope that didn't seem too confusing, and I hope I explained it, pretty decent. I mean, honestly, if it was my first time diving into this mod, I would be so overwhelmed looking at all this. It is honestly a lot to take in. And honestly, this concept can be really weird too. For example, the base like Fluix cables, they can connect to any color. So in this case, it would allow me to connect. But if I was using, for example, a green dense cable here now, notice I could not actually connect the cable. And that's because basic Fluix cables can connect to any color, thankfully helping with this situation. Now, Mekanism relies on these alloys that we're about to make, and this means this infusion setup is going to be crucial to allowing us to make anything within Mekanism later on down the road. So having a way to produce, for example, these infused alloys really, really fast is going to be necessary. And then we're also going to want to make the higher tiers like the reinforced alloy, which is going to be super necessary. And then, for example, the atomic alloy, which is going to be our top tier alloy. Of course, there are other things that we have to do that are in between those. For example, the atomic alloy, we are going to need this stuff called refined obsidian. Refined obsidian has its own sort of crafting process that's going to need to take place in order to do this. But like I said, thankfully, all of this can be handled quite effectively by using AdvancedAE, which we're going to set up here in a second. So there are other machines that we're going to need to keep in mind. For example, enriched obsidian, which is separate from our infusion. This requires the enrichment chamber, which we're going to need. So the amount of machines that we're going to need for this, I mean, it's probably going to be about 5 infusers. So we're going to need, I believe, 5 separate infusers, which I would definitely recommend setting up 5, one for each process to make it much, much faster. Later on, you can do more than one connected to this pattern provider, right? We could have like 4 machines all connected to one pattern provider, which would be kind of cool. But for right now, we're mainly going to focus on just having one per pattern provider and kind of go from there. So I have myself an enrichment chamber. I also have an osmium compressor right here. We're going to have more machines in here in the future, but right now I'm going to connect in these advanced pattern providers, putting 5 down and then on top of them, placing in 5 metallurgic infusers. Now, something to note, I am probably going to have these rotated, for example, like this, where they are pointing up, because if you place a pattern provider next to another pattern provider, well, they can actually insert the ingredients into the return inventory buffer, and this can cause some problems with your recipes down the road. So just something to note, place this in, use your wrench, rotate this to facing up. Okay, so now the basics is we're going to be sending items into this, and we go into our mechanism machine. We can move this around. And what I want to do is I want to make sure the input, for example, the enrichment chamber, which only has a single buffer to worry about, we just want this to be input, output, and make sure auto eject is on. That's super easy. The pattern provider will send the ingredients into the machine. It will then do its process, and then the result will just automatically get pushed back into the pattern provider, thus completing the craft. And very similarly, it's going to happen over here for the osmium compressor. However, we are going to use this osmium compressor and constantly send it a supply of a certain material, for example, osmium. And so on the back of our osmium compressor, it's going to be very similar to everything else. But what I want this to just constantly be crafting and trying to send osmium into this osmium compressor. And we're going to go ahead and define this input output just like the other one, except this is also going to be accepted as a input for extra. And this is going to be actually very similar to how the config is going to look for the metallurgic infuser as well. And since we have a constant supply of osmium, I have a crafting recipe for it. It's going to be pretty straightforward. This is just going to start sending osmium ingots and store them in here. Now the patterns for these two machines should be straightforward. We just need to send redstone in, and it's going to turn it into an enriched version of it. And if you've ever played with this mod before, you're going to know that definitely enriching is the way to go. It is going to make this 1 redstone dust basically act as 8 redstone dust once it's enriched, used in these machines. So it saves you a lot of resources and also saves you just a lot of time. So all I have to do now is just build one for the few things that we're going to need it for, which is just the redstone, the diamond, and the enriched refined obsidian. And so all of this combined together will be basically all of the ingredients we're going to need. Now, speaking of refined obsidian, there is another thing we are going to need, and that is obsidian dust whenever we do make this craft. And obsidian dust will come from a crusher. We just need to have obsidian go into here, and I already have a crusher set up. Thankfully, we'll be able to upgrade this crusher and make it very, very fast later on down the road, but I'm just going to toss that in here. Might as well, since I already have it set up. Like I said, this is basic, super, super basic, goes into the pattern provider and is just going to work. So at this point, you may be wondering, Chosen, why do you have 5 of these metallurgic infusers if there's only 3 alloys you're going to be automating? Well, that's a good question. And I guess the reason is because we are actually going to be processing these 3 alloys and the basic control circuits in here as well. So that's all stuff that I got to keep in mind. And then I also have to produce the enriched ingredient here, which is an enriched refined obsidian. This is a metallurgic infuser recipe as well. So if you notice, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different recipes. And the reason I have only 5 is because we're actually excluding the need to make steel because we have a steel seed already. So it kind of saves us. But of course, this is really kind of redundant. We don't even have to worry about doing more than 1 infuser because we could do all this setup with just simply 1 metallurgic infuser. Now, enough of me rambling on. Let's actually get to the good part where we experiment with this because I've actually not used this before. I do know how it works, but I have not actually used it. So it's going to be kind of interesting. And also keep in mind, this is not a tutorial. It's a let's play, right? So I'm kind of going through this and learning as you actually are watching. So let's start this off. Now, typically, the way that we set this up is kind of confusing, right? So you have to think about this in a couple different ways. This recipe right here to make infused alloy is using a certain amount of fluid that is being generated by the item that goes into this slot. And in this case, it's basing that 10 millibuckets off of how much it takes to make 1 alloy. And if we hit U over these items, we can actually get an idea or an indicator of how much fluid a certain thing produces. For example, a block of redstone produces 90 millibuckets, whereas one of those in enrich, which is what we're using, uses 80, like it makes 80, right? So with this knowledge, we can do a little bit of math. It's not anything crazy, but we know that that one item, when we bring that over from JEI, should produce 8. So that means both of these need to be balanced out to 8. So we send 8 copper with 1 enriched, and it produces 8 on the return. That's basically how we're going to do all of these. All of them have different formulas. This will be 8, this will be 4, and this will be 2, just to kind of spoil it for you. Now, I think the important part is after we build this processing pattern is when we need to place it into this advanced pattern encoder. So this is where things get a little bit different, right? So we have target the up face of the machine, target the down face of the machine. Then we also have target the west, the south, and you get to choose what side of the machine the pattern provider is actually sending the ingredient to. This is kind of wild. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and define our outputs here. So by default, we can clear it by clicking this button. And then we're going to say the input down here is going to be just like the other machines. It's our input and output, which means the red slot is the main input, which is going to receive that copper. That's pretty straightforward. And that's going to be on the bottom. And then it's going to auto push back into the machine, into the return when it's done. The special thing is this one right here. So I'm going to say the back of the machine. Let's make that the extra, just like we did our other one. And now that this is defined, we know that the back side of the machine is what needs to receive that extra material. And that extra material, by the way, is the enriched redstone. So I'm going to open up my map, and the north side is actually the side that we're going to interact with. So we need to target the north face for the enriched. And then on the copper here, we need to target the down of the machine, which is going to be the bottom of the machine. And with that configured, this will work with a single block, no pipes connected, nothing we have to worry about. It should just work. And we have now configured this card, and we can pull out the advanced processing pattern to put inside this machine. That is so cool. So can I go ahead and test this? I believe we can. Like alloy, like we should see the pattern in there. We can request, and we should see everything pop into this machine once everything is made. I hope so. Now, for some reason, it didn't work on the first try, but that's definitely no reason to give up. I'm going to go ahead and just define this. I noticed that this says target the face adjacent to the advanced pattern provider. Like that is just default, I think works just fine. So at this point, I should be able to pull this finished out. I noticed when I put this back in, by the way, it did not store its settings. And I think now this, if all patterned correctly, we can request. And there it goes. Okay, so that was actually my issue. Oh, it's so good. So yes, if the target side is the side that you're trying to send it to, you want to make sure that it is set to send to target side, not target bottom, apparently. Kind of cool. Okay, so you learn something. You learn something new every time you play around with this. That is perfect. And it's doing it. Like, notice that it did send those ingredients, and it even sent them to the appropriate slot. That is beautiful. I mean, honestly, kind of cool that this pattern provider can now interact with any side of the block that it is connected to. Honestly, kind of a superpower for the pattern provider. And I tell you, there's a lot of machines. There's a lot of machines that are very much side specific. So now essentially I need to build a pattern out for each of these other machines. For example, the enriched obsidian here, this last tier is only going to be 2. So we're going to get 2 as a result. Beautiful. So there we go. That's all crafted up. 4 for this one. And then to be able to actually make the refined obsidian, this is going to need diamond, by the way. And notice it is 1 and the enriched diamond is 8. So we should be able to get 8 out of this. And you can see those values, like I said, right here. So there's 8. It's only going to take 10. So whenever we define this, just like our first setting, we just need to make sure we clear that, bring the enriched diamond in, and then we're going to say 8 to 8. I mean, I'm middle mouse clicking, by the way, to change these values. So yeah, not everything is the same. This one is 20. This is going to use twice as much redstone. So just like our other one, this is going to be 4 osmium to 1. And this is going to generate 4 and 4 circuits for 1 operation. Thankfully, every single one of these are going to be defined the same, just simply target north face. And that is it. Like all of them should be exactly the same setup. So I guess the moment of truth would be to try and craft an atomic alloy. So let's do that. You're going to see everything get requested here. It's going to start enriching, and I do need to put some gates on here to make sure these have some power, of course. Let's see, can I not put a gate on top of this? That's very weird. What's interesting, the like energy config was all cleared. I don't remember clearing the energy one, but there we go. Now I also almost forgot one thing, and that is to set all of the configurations for the other machines. So I can actually copy the configuration from this machine using a configuration card and simply paste this in, and notice everything now start working. Oh, that is fantastic. Everything is just going to start working. Everything should work. And we now have requests for everything from Mekanism. And now our goal is to just simply upgrade these machines to the max. And there we go. Atomic alloy constructed, which means that this has now completed. Oh, this is too good. Advanced pattern providers for the win on this one. I mean, honestly, it's too much. Of course, let me know what you think about these pattern providers in the comment section below. Was this episode like really advanced for you? Like, are you understanding what I'm talking about, or is it just flying over your head, or are you completely getting it and appreciate this episode? I would love to hear from you in the comments, and don't forget to click that like button and click the subscribe if you haven't already. Honestly, your engagement is what drives me to keep wanting to make videos like these. Now, something I almost forgot, why did we set up that awesome in a compressor, right? It's for this recipe right here, right? I want to actually take that refined obsidian and turn it into refined obsidian ingots. And this is how you do that. And thankfully though, for this recipe, we just need to send the refined obsidian in there and voila. Super easy. We don't have to worry about anything else because we're already sending osmium to this. We do want this though, because this is a prominent ingredient in a lot of the Mekanism crafts. So I've got just about every upgrade that we could want, right? We have all of these tier installers, which we're going to use to increase our machines to their highest tier. And then we also want speed and energy upgrades. And I did notice yet again, yeah, I keep mentioning this, but yeah, these upgrades, they now use structural glass, which does require steel. You could do steel in this same operation, by the way, but I went ahead and done all of that effort and made steel by using the all the mods method, and then just made seeds for it, which I also recommend because steel is one of those bottlenecks in Mekanism. It just, man, it uses so much steel, and I almost should make a steel bee. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad idea either. So here we go, tier 1 upgrades. And I think this is going to be like way faster than stuff I've done in the past that had relied on cables. Except for when I played, I believe it was all the mods 9 to the sky. The way I set it up in that one, the machines directly connected to each other, and they would automatically send all of its buffered ingredients in. That one was incredibly fast. But you know what? Thinking about it, I think the one I did in Project Architect 2, that one was the fastest. That was 4 machines connected to one pattern provider each. And yeah, that one could make like 300 of the atomic alloys in like seconds. But you know what? This one is going to be more than fine. I'm going to also make sure auto sort is toggled on all of these. And after that is done, I mean, it should be very, very easy to upgrade. I have all of these machines now upgraded with their speed and energy upgrades. And I was wrong last time I talked about Mekanism. In this particular pack, these do not go up to 32. I guess that was an extra mod or a config change or something like that. In this pack, we still have our default 8. I mean, yeah, this is so much faster. Like the higher the tier you make, it just makes the next one even faster at making it. So yeah, now we're on advanced. And then, for example, I want to make the elite, make 7 of those. We can just simply see how much quicker this all is. It automatically dumps all of the base ingredients in. It's so fast. Oh, I'm loving this. Like, this is going to make future machines so much better once we have this base infrastructure up. Oh, this is like super, super common stuff. But I mean, you can hear in the excitement in my voice, like, this is new. This is new territory, and it looks so clean. Like, I'm loving that. It is cableless. I mean, aside from the applied logistics cables, which you could hide, I'm using them for the aesthetics. I think they look really good, like existing in this area. That's why I'm leaving them exposed. But there we go. Ultimate tier installers. Oh my goodness. This is going to make things go really, really fast when we need to request them. Like, for example, like atomic alloy. Like, let's just do like 100 atomic alloy. Like, what's it take to do this? Oh my gosh. Oh man. Yeah, nothing. Like, nothing at all. we're already at the 100 mark. What in the world? Oh boy, Mekanism is looking bright again. Now, all of this combined together will allow us to make something special, and that is a quantum entangle porter. This is a very, very fascinating block, and it allows us to send power. It can allow us to send items, gases, fluids, all of that can be handled through the quantum entangle porter, and you can actually define very specific channels. That is what is very, very powerful about this. So you can specify very specific fluids to be going through here, or you can create a network of these, and yeah, you can just simply route them through. So just like we are, for example, using like a dimensional chest, this is like a dimensional chest that has a single item slot, basically. And as you can see, all of these items that is required to craft the thing is what we just worked on making. So definitely worth the time investment. Now, another really useful thing that we can make is teleporters, right? And Mekanism does have some teleporters. All we have to do is simply craft one of these, and I'm also going to craft a portable teleporter. This is pretty darn cool. The portable teleporter allows you to teleport to a teleporter. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, but technically these teleporters would allow you to walk through them like a portal, and that would teleport you to a linked teleporter. Now in this case, what we can do is we can just set this to automatically teleport us to this location. So if I place my teleporter right here, I can create a channel, and we can call this AE or something like that, right? AE would be fine. And then we define that, and it says AE, and I know that it's going to take me to the AE. And what I can do is use my portable teleporter, and I can right click this, and then I just select the location and hit set. And now we're pretty much ready to go. All I have to do now is right click and hit teleport, and it teleports me right there. So I could set multiple, and I just select those different teleporter locations to teleport around the base. Just don't forget, these do require power to stay running, but my inventory is actually charging them up. But yeah, they do require some power, but they're pretty straightforward, and honestly, a really, really nice teleportation method. And so voila, I have another teleporter here. So for example, I go, I want AE, teleport. I want to go to castle, set, teleport, right? I believe I can teleport after setting, apparently. So yeah, it's very neat. And honestly, this is a great alternative considering that we don't have the full RF tools suite in here yet, meaning we don't have the beautiful teleporters that mod adds. Even though there's a lot of mods that do add those teleporters, but still, this is a pretty nifty way to just simply right-click a button and go home. Now, there are a plethora of other things that we will be able to discover diving deeper into Mekanism in the future, but for today, that is going to be it. But I hope you learned something new, whether it was about the advanced AE or the extended AE. All of those are absolutely fantastic additions to the Applied Energistic Suite. And I tell you what, I don't know what I did before these. Like, what did I even do? Like, I don't even know. But if you did enjoy, click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Give this video a huge thumbs up. And of course, comment down below your thoughts. I would love to hear from you. And well, join me over on Discord, discord.gg/ChosenArchitect. We have an amazing community over there. I hang out on the voice channels all the time, and I love to just chat, get ideas from you guys. Absolutely amazing. I appreciate you very much. And with that being said, it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that huge thanks is going out to King. Thank you so much, by the way, for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting me in one of the best ways possible. Guys, I cannot wait for the next episode. I cannot wait to dive deeper into Mekanism and many other mods in the future, and I can't do that without your guys' help. So comment down below. I'll talk to you in the next episode. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye!